What's up, everybody, and welcome to another edition of On a Couch Talking Sports. As always, I'm Robbie, joined by Kyle. Kyle, how are you tonight, buddy?
Hey, what's up, dude? I'm doing all right. It's just, same old, nothing much has changed.
There you go. Nothing much has changed, and that's the way the cookie crumbles. For tonight's episode, we were going to start sort of a, obviously, if you've watched us over the past few months, when we've been sort of reminiscing about teams of the past and all that fun stuff, we've sort of touched on sort of a bit of our athletic, personal athletic teams that we've either been on as players or as coaches. And tonight we're going to sort of continue that theme for sort of the first of a four-part sort of series of episodes here, where we're going to dive into my beloved co-host's high school track career, or high school track and field career, I should say. That's right. Kyle was a 4-year participant on the Wellesley High School track and field team, all 4 years in the spring, and then was it 2 or 3 years in the winter?
2 years in the winter.
2 years in the winter. So we're gonna, for these first couple of episodes, sort of focus on the spring side of things for the first 2 years, and then sort of for the last two, sort of combine in both winter and spring. So, I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this goes. So we'll start out tonight with our freshman year, the 2005 spring track season. And so, Kyle, I guess the first thing I want to ask you is sort of how did you make the decision to get involved in track, when you got to Wellesley High, and sort of what was that process, that sort of build up like coming, heading into your first season on the team freshman year?
Well, so I really got into track because for those of you that haven't seen the Whedon episode, that we did a few weeks back, my uncle was the head track coach at Wheaton for a while, and he had got me very interested in track actually throughout the years, even when I was in like middle school and even maybe even a little bit in elementary. Fun story. I first started just doing track. I think it was like in 5th grade or something like that. And then I did like a tiny bit here and there throughout middle school. And then I had actually joined my uncle's camp. He did like a track camp during the summer that usually took place. And I think it was like Franklin and Mansfield. And I got really interested. And I had really wanted to do it, in high school, especially since, having just moved to Wellesley in 8th grade, I didn't really do the 8th grade track team. But I heard really good things about the high school team. So actually, I don't think I really did any sports in 8th grade, come to think of it. I kind of skipped out football.
I mean, you did CYO basketball, but other than that, the school-related sports really didn't start for you, I remember, until freshman year, until we got to the high school.
Yeah, because I remember, although you and I, this needs to be like another episode, but I remember you and I tried out for the 8th grade basketball team one time. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember, and I remember that it was, at least for me, just, it was a colossal flame out, really. I realized very early on that I probably was not going to make that team, and sure enough, did not end up making that team. But still, it was, I remember you and I were kind of battling each other. I remember once during those tryouts and all that fun stuff. So I definitely remember that. So we'll definitely have to touch on that in a future episode at some point, because that was I definitely do remember that tryout process for 8th grade basketball.
Yeah, and I think aside from that, that was probably the closest thing that I think. Well, for you to football, that only thing I really sports related, when I first moved to Wellesley. So it was kind of a nice opportunity to go, right into, freshman year. And it was also really cool because I think I may have mentioned this in one of the football episodes that we did, but my throwing coach, his name was Coach Rubin. I had known him earlier that year during the football season. So it was kind of cool. When I got into track, it was kind of a nice, easy transition because I had known some of the players that had played football, actually, they also did track. And I knew a lot of the coaches, actually, even Russell and a lot of those guys also did track. So, or actually, no, did Coach Russell do it? Maybe he didn't, actually. I'm trying to remember.
I know he does it now, but I don't know if he did it then. Was Coach Griff one of the coaches for track back then?
He might have been. I think maybe he was. I feel like they were like, yeah, I think Griff was there too. Yeah, no, that's right. He was. He. So it was funny. So it was kind of cool going into, track, just already knowing like a number of the players, already knowing some of the coaches. So it was a very nice, easy transition overall. So
well, it's kind of funny you bring up Coach Rubin because Coach Rubin, along with knowing him through playing football freshman year, he was also my guidance counselor through my first 3 years of high school before I know he went on to a different school. But he actually somewhat tried to convince me to join the track and field team or the throwing team myself freshman year, and I thought about it, and I kind of sort of waited a little bit, but I had some other activities going on that I wanted to continue to pursue, and just the schedule, I just decided it would be best if I didn't join. But I do remember that year I sort of for a brief moment considered joining the team, and he was a big reason. He was sort of a big part, trying to convince me to maybe join up. But like I said, I ultimately decided against it. But Kyle, like we said, has definitely joined up and made the most of his track and field career. So sort of just talk to us a little bit about like once the season started up, sort of what that was like, and sort of preseason, so to speak, and then sort of I guess let's sort of start there. Sort of what is sort of a spring track preseason like? Because I know it usually starts in March, right after the winter sports season ends. So sort of just talk to us about what that was like, sort of your first experience with sort of a track. I know we talked about football preseason in our past episodes, but sort of what was your first experience with a track preseason? Heading into that freshman season like.
Well, I will say this: it wasn't nearly as intense as football.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you're also not practices in like 90-degree heat in August. I think March is more comfortable weather-wise than August.
God, that was so bad. No, we didn't have to worry about all those crazy preseasons. So the thing is, so when I did track, I actually did not do winter track. I just did spring track, like Robbie mentioned before. And Coach Rubin also, I remember, was I think that was about the year. I think it was that year or the next year where he started to try to convince me. He goes, "Hey, Kyle, just join indoor track, man, and everything." And I thought having 3 sports initially would be kind of tough. I didn't really like the idea of having actually, a sport every season. So I had wanted to kind of leave the winter season just kind of open in case I want to do some clubs or something like that. And I think I remember I think I did like the Asian club at some point, and we even had like a trip to like CK Shanghai's and stuff like that. So that was kind of a little bit my preseason, since I just kind of skipped altogether indoor track. So I just kind of did that and worked out. They encourage you to go in the weight room. And, of course, with football being a big part of high school for me, when you're on the team, they really encourage you to work out during the off season. So there was kind of that link in a way. Like there was that track and football link. So they just kind of like both sports really wanted you to kind of like, at least stay fit at the very least. So yeah, and we even had, Robbie and I think we're even in the same, we were in the same like, was it the, I think that first half of high school.
Fitness center, yeah, fitness center workout or whatever it was, intro to fitness center, yeah. I remember those classes.
Right. I remember one time I think I dropped a weight on my foot. Ooh, that really hurt.
That sounds painful.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it got bruised. It was pretty painful. But yeah, no. So that was about it. I just kind of kept in the weight room, and then joined the fun.
What I guess I was more asking is once like spring track like practices actually started, what was that like? Once the spring track season started, you sort of started to get into practices, leading up to, sort of getting this like sort of pre-season practices in the sense that it's like sort of leading up to your first meet, those sort of initial days and weeks, when the season first starts. What was that like?
Oh, right. So that was it was pretty easy going. They had us do like more in depth, like the drills and stuff they had us do were mostly just like kind of mobility drills, like skipping, doing like arm circles and stuff like that. They wanted to. They usually would start having the whole team do all those mobility drills at the same time, and regardless whether you were a runner or a thrower or anything like that. And then I remember Coach Rubin, one of the first like thrower workouts he did, because the throwers still did their own runs too. They still kind of wanted to, we had our time in the weight room, but we also had our workouts and like more cardio related things. So one of the big things that we did were straights and curves. So it's a type of workout that you have to you can walk the curves of the track, like when the track goes around. Yeah. You walk that part, and then once you get to like the straight part of the track, you just sprint. And it was kind of a good because the throwers are, I feel like because throwers have to like deal with that kind of explosive movement, whether they're throwing the shot put or throwing the discus, I feel like throwers are better at sprints than they would be at distance. So that's kind of what we did. We kind of practiced on like doing those kind of like different sprints activities like that. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I could see how that would be effective, because again, you sort of, when you're throwing, you get kind of that burst, sort of when you're going into the throwing motion. So definitely, I could see how that sort of a workout like that would be definitely effective. So now into the season itself, freshman year, sort of once you sort of get into the actual, meat part of the season, just sort of describe for everybody what those meets were like, and sort of to add on to that, sort of what memories you sort of have from that freshman year, sort of memorable moments from you from those freshman year track meets.
Well, having first experience in meet, I had to really kind of like realize that no, it's not like a football game. Football games, they're very concentrated. You're in that, you're on the field the whole time, whether you're on the sidelines or playing in the game. Track is very spread out.
Yeah.
And I kind of realized that. I'm like, oh, okay. So, and it's just such a different field than football, and one of the things that was cool was, we had our home meets. We had a really big track area that we could do home meets in and stuff like that. And we also, during our away meets, having been to a lot of those other schools like Braintree, Norwood, even Natick, just all those, it was kind of cool. Like I was familiar with that. I was like, oh, here we go. I remember this field. I remember this area. And we were actually, honestly, we were pretty close to the throwing team. I remember my good friends on the throwing team, Catherine that year. I remember Thomas, who you remember football. We talked
Oh
about him a
yes.
little bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was just a great crew. It was just the throwing crew was just so easygoing. We all had our like in jokes and everything, and Coach Rubin was amazing. My nickname actually that he gave me was Susamaphone. So yeah, it was just I loved it. I actually thought just track, especially outdoor track. I absolutely love outdoor track, and obviously I'll get more into indoor track when I talk about it in the future episodes. But outdoor track just was like, it was phenomenal because it was, when you go into like the outdoor track season, it's the start of the spring, so warmer weather. You kind of experience all of that like firsthand, and yeah, some of the meets are pretty cold. We had to deal with some chilly meets here and there, but it's whatever. Most of the meets took place during the day, so you didn't have to worry about staying too late. And they were kind of all day too. Like a lot of those meets, like depending on which ones we went to, and yeah, sometimes we'd go. Mainly, I think the meets would take place. They would take place after school, if I remember correctly. So, I get out of school and boom, right? We get the track shorts, get the throwing shoes on. They were like these. The first time I ever got throwing shoes, they're like these like shoes. They're super flat, but they're there so you can kind of either you can use the gliding motion or use like the spinning for if you're going to do like shot put or discus. And that was pretty cool too. So.
Nice, nice. And I have to ask, sort of as a follow up, because I mean I know we talked about how good he was on the football field, but how was Thomas Claiborne as a thrower, as a track athlete?
Oh, he was incredible. Thomas, I remember, along with he was one of the best shot putters on our team. I remember and the other guy, Mike. He and Mike were the two best shot putters. They threw I think they were like in the 40s. Like they threw 40 feet. Well over actually 40 feet, I think too. So they were amazing. And just watching Thomas, I remember a lot of us, when we started, we started off with the glide. It's just it's like a little bit of a shuffle. Then you kind of, toss the shot put. You push the shot put in a way. You don't really want to toss it, or else it's going to ruin your wrist. I remember Thomas, watching him. He was actually the first person I've watched to do the spin trick for shot put, and it was just funny because there were some times where he would do the spin trick and he was still kind of getting the hang of it, and sometimes the shot put would go like all the way in this direction, so we had to be like, ooh.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, he's just a monster athlete. So I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all that he excelled on on the track, or sort of on the track and field, so to speak, like he did on the football field. So very very unsurprised there. I guess any sort of final thoughts from you about that season? Any sort of personal, anything sort of personal memory wise for you specifically that season? That anything else you want to sort of touch on?
I mean, overall, it was from what I remember, because it's a little tricky, because I've done 7 years of track overall, so sometimes I have to kind of like make sure I got the right season and everything.
True.
But yeah, from what I remember, it was a great season. And being the youngest at the time, being the youngest grade, you have all the bigger, the better athletes you look up to, and yeah, it was just overall, yeah, I just had a really great time. I feel like I said, the throwers, we were tight, man. It was a great crew. It was also great just cheering on, even when we weren't throwing during the meets, we cheer on the runners and the jumpers and stuff like that. And of course the other throwers, like if we weren't doing javelin, then we'd be, if our event wasn't going on, we'd be going over and cheering our fellow teammates. So I thought that was cool. And I'll get a little more into javelin too as the series goes, because freshman year was the first time, or was a year that I was really trying out everything, because I hadn't really tried. Well, I tried discus and shot put a little bit at the camps, that I did with my uncle, but I had never really tried javelin. Or no, actually, I think I did, but I wanted to kind of, I want to see if I can get the hang of it. And I'll tell you guys a little more about that as the episodes go on. So it's an interesting one.
Very cool. I mean, we certainly look forward to hearing more about it for sure. So, yeah, that was obviously really cool. Sort of even just hearing about your first year. And I mean, I'm sure we got a lot more fun stuff to come over these next few episodes as we sort of dive more into, all the other 3 spring track seasons, and then, like I said, incorporating your winter seasons as well into that as we go along here. So we're going to sort of transition on here to sort of the end portion of our episode, and I guess I'll sort of kick things off this time with my my final thought. And my final thought is that yesterday was a very exciting day as a Boston sports fan, because for the first time in 4 months, or really longer than that, given the fact that the Red Sox were in spring training still when sports shut down, you had a day where 3 Boston sports teams were in action live playing games that mattered, because you had the Celtics playing their second seeding of 8 seeding contest against Portland, a game which they won, which was awesome. You had the Bruins beginning their Stanley Cup round robin against Philadelphia. Unfortunately, they fell to the Flyers, which was disappointing, but hopefully they'll bounce back Wednesday night against Tampa. And then you had the Red Sox finishing up a 3-game series against the Yankees, where, the Red Sox have been a struggle this year. There's no question about it. I mean, it was kind of to be expected. And, the Red Sox fell again last night. Unfortunately, a close game against the Yankees. They were up a couple times, but the pitching just couldn't hold up. And, while it's disappointing, I hate to say it, but it's to be expected with this team, just given all the injuries and issues they had, before the season even started pitching wise. So, just kind of have to just keep pushing ahead with the season. And, obviously it's disappointing to lose to the Yankees, but, hopefully, they can, bounce back. But, I kind of resigned myself to the fact that this is going to be a struggle of a season for the Red Sox, but we will, at least we have sports to watch right now, and especially with basketball and hockey being back, definitely makes it easier to deal with the Red Sox struggles. So, those are sort of my final thoughts for the week, and now I will throw it back to Kyle for another rousing edition of the Sue's Reviews. Kyle, take it away.
All right, so if it's okay, I was going to kind of loop you in this conversation a little bit.
Sure.
I kind of want to do like just a very quick like a band spotlight, or band or musician spotlight kind of thing.
Okay.
I was thinking I could talk about one. You can talk about one person that you really like, or band or whatever.
Sure.
And,
I actually got one that comes right to mind that you'll appreciate, given our sort of in-person musical event history. So, but I'll save it. I'll save it for when it's my time.
Sweet, awesome. And because one of the things I wanted to talk more about during the Sue's Reviews was I feel like I don't talk about music enough, and I wanted to kind of spotlight that more, and even loop some people in the conversation. And so for this particular music spotlight, I really wanted to focus on this band called TV on the Radio. They're kind of like an alternative indie rock meets like soul. They're so good. They meld a bunch of different types of music styles, and I really love them. And their lead singer, his name is Tunde. I unfortunately can't pronounce his last name. Sorry, Tunde. But they're like he is such a great singer. He's one of the best leading singers in almost any band I've ever seen. And I actually saw them live a little while back when I was in college, and they put on a great show. It was phenomenal. And if you're looking for a really good album to start, they only have about like 4 or 5 albums, I think, out. They've been around since, I think, like the early 2000s. I really liked Dear Science and Seeds. Both great albums I think you could start on. They both have a lot of great songs like, what is it? Dear Science has Halfway Home, DLZ. Seeds has Laser Ray, Happy Idiot. Just to name some of the few if you guys want to Spotify and check them out. So yeah, just if you're looking for a new band and you haven't heard these guys yet, then I highly recommend you listen to them. So
Cool. Yeah, I think for me, and again, Kyle will understand here in just a moment, but the sort of particular singer that I want to talk about has sort of had success in a solo career as well as in a band format, and his name is not John Cena, but John Butcher. And he is a singer that has been around since like I forget if he was really sort of on in like the 70s or the 80s when exactly he started up, but he's been a member of a couple bands. He was a member of a band at one point called the Barefoot Servants. Then he was a member of a band called John Butcher Axis. And then he was also a member of a band sort of more recently called Farron Butcher Incorporated. Himself and Charlie Farron, who's another sort of guitarist from that sort of era. And I just really enjoy his music. He's kind of like a smaller scale version of like Jimi Hendrix, and I know he's been actually kind of asked at times to sort of what's it called? Sort of lend his guitar abilities to some of Jimi Hendrix. Boy, I can't speak. Jimi Hendrix's work. Sort of doing his own covers for Jimi Hendrix's work, and like I said, he's got some great songs. He's really good on the guitar. Like I said, some of his guitar solos during his his musical works are really very impressive. And I know the reason why I mentioned that Kyle would kind of get where I'm going here is Kyle actually saw him with me. I think it was last summer. We
a year ago,
saw him it was last June, I believe. We saw him in Natick over at the T-Can in Natick, which, by the way, I know right now there's not really concerts or anything like that going on, but once they come back, if you are looking for a great sort of smaller venue to go watch any sort of show in, I would highly recommend T-Can in Natick. It's a great sort of, it's a small venue, but it's very, it's just a great venue. Period. End of story. And if you're there, and take my word for this, they have some of the best chocolate chip cookies at their concession stands. So
yes, that they do.
Please, yeah. Kyle will attest that definitely if you're there, stop and pick up a chocolate chip cookie at the concession stand. They are really, really good. But yeah, so definitely check him out. And Kyle, I know I'm kind of curious, and you can I'm sort of throw it up to you here, to sort of to talk to the people as well, because you saw him. It was your first time, I know, seeing him when we went to that show last summer. So just if you could just sort of tell the people sort of your experience with him and what your thoughts were after that first experience.
Oh, it was phenomenal. It was one of the best live shows I've been in a long time. I'm not gonna lie. He put on a hell of a show. He is so talented, and he's been around for so long, and you think like, oh, maybe he lost in that talent over time, but no, he really has. He's this guy is all in it. And, before Robbie and I had gone to the concert, I was only familiar, I think, with maybe one or two of his tracks. But it was nice that you guys you showed me some of his songs,
Yeah.
on the car right there.
That's right.
And it was just great. It was so good, actually. I ended up getting one of his albums. It was a more recent recording of, I think that he did a lot of his older songs. And I remember one of my favorite moments the whole night was just going up, and I, after buying the CD, I actually ended up talking to him, and he was such a nice guy. He was so personable. And I just told him, I'm like, all right, dude, you have a new fan. I'm here. I'm all in. So.
I've actually gotten the chance to meet him a couple times myself.
Oh, cool.
Because I know my dad actually did some sort of helped him out a little bit with sort of some stuff with the sort of his old CDs and sort of putting together like lyrics at one point to some of his older stuff for his CDs. So, I've gotten to meet him a couple of times. He's a pretty good guy. And like I said, I always, whenever he's in town and performing, unfortunately it wasn't this year, but whenever he's in town and performing, I always like to go and see him live, because he really puts on a great show. And I was glad I was able to, I was able to share that experience with Kyle a year ago.
That was amazing, dude.
So that was awesome.
All
right,
for taking me to that. That was awesome,
dude. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. You know it. So that's gonna wrap up this week's edition of On a Couch Talking Sports. As always, stay safe, everybody. Stay healthy. Thanks as always for tuning in. As always, he's Kyle. I'm Robbie, and we will see you next time on a Couch Talking Sports. Bye, everybody.